Riverside.
Hello and welcome to We've Been Watching. It's our fancy new intro, if anybody registered it. Hello, Claire. Are you there? Are you there beyond the fancy intro?
I'm here beyond the... I didn't know you could play the piano, David. That's really good.
I know, and quite sort of jazzy and soul. I mean, soul and me, I mean, God, they go hand in hand. They really do.
Of Southwest London, aren't you?
And, of course, Claire had the week off because of the Jubilee, because you wanted to immerse yourself so much in the royal family, didn't you, Claire?
Absolutely. And I think we've all been buried neck deep in the royal family, haven't we? And I know everywhere all the repercussions are all coming out now, aren't they? Like Prince Andrew is being seen in public and is hoping to be rehabilitated. But yes, I think we've had enough of them now, and I'd quite like them to go away and just have nice lives and disappear.
I know, if that's going to happen, though. I mean, it's now we've got all the meddling stuff with Prince Charles, and so we've got Andrew back in the limelight, and Prince Andrew showing his face again. It's just like, here we go again, isn't it?
I know, they never stop themselves, do they? And then as well today, you've got, we're recording this on a Sunday, by the way, you've got William saying that he wants to move out of London to give the kids a normal life. And that the Republican in me is going, give them a normal life, abolish the monarchy. It's just, anyway, but it's funny, isn't it, how we soon forget, we have all our lovely things on television with people singing outside Buckingham Palace, and then everything's back to being the same again.
It is. Let's play a fancy new transition and then we can get on with it.
Nice.
I'm going to play another one. Oh, they're very serious. Right, to television this week, we've got quite a few things to get through. Everything I Know About Love on BBC One, Love Island ITV2, we've heard of that, just. The Outlaws BBC One, a bit on Dan Walker, if we can bear it, and Man vs. Bee, and Avoidance as well, which you've watched, Claire, and we shall talk about that as well. So we've got a full pack show here. So Everything I Know About Love, BBC One, the story of some 20-somethings in Camden living certainly not a cost of living crisis lifestyle.
Well, this was the noughties, though, wasn't it? Or the tens. It's supposed to be 2012, isn't it? So maybe people could actually afford to eat and drink and heat their flats back then. But I was actually quite surprised to see this on BBC One, because I'd have thought it was prime BBC Three material, for 20-somethings living in a flat, having a high old time.
I mean, it didn't. Also, what was odd is that it was buried by BBC One at 10:40 after the news. Now, I mean, that's not prime time. I mean, again, it's this strategy of putting something fleetingly on linear TV, normal TV, we're going to call it, and then running it out on iPlayer, because I mean, we get trailed more about iPlayer than anything. So I was surprised that did that mean that the BBC didn't rate this drama? I mean, I found it difficult to relate to this drama. I mean, I think I related better to Sally Rooney's storytelling, to be frank, of younger people. I mean, because I've never taken cocaine in a nightclub toilet. Maybe it's something I need to do. Maybe it's a sort of very late in life sort of rite of passage.
That's actually a really great idea. I think we should put that in for a commission, for a series, David. You and I could go out trying things we've never done as middle-aged people. Yeah.
Based on BBC Three dramas or something.
Yeah, but it was an odd slot, wasn't it? And then, that's why I say, it should have been on BBC Three. And then that makes me think, well, they probably think younger people are going to watch this on iPlayer anyway, so scheduling doesn't matter.
But I thought it also was quite pretentious. I mean, the lead character meets a sort of troubadour character on the train, doesn't she? And one of his first things he says is, I think Larkin was right. And all I kept thinking about was Pop Larkin.
Bradley Walsh gets everywhere,
all the time.
Yes, I mean, he reminded me of this is my 80s years, in my 20s and teens, when there were always young men sitting on the tube and trains reading Gunther Grass's glass bead game. So I suppose, pretentious people in their 20s never change. But I mean, as I say, it wasn't for me. It was one of those dramas that, old people like me go, grr, I can't relate to it. But I can see why young people are so mad about it. I mean, Dolly Alderton is a phenomenon. She is, that book just sold shed loads. But it was interesting because that was it was a straight memoir, and she's dramatized it for TV.
I mean, I have no doubt about the realism of it. I think the realism, the acting's good and the script is fine, but I just find it a bit pretentious and sort of unnecessary. I mean, you see, it's difficult for me to really critique it because I can't relate to it. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, I found it quite interesting, where they're all doing the what do you want to be when you graduate from college conversation. The Dolly Alderton character says, I want to be a writer. And again, it's that sort of, fetishization of people in the media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he's an actor and she's a writer and this, that, and the other. And it's like, when are we going to have someone? I mean, maybe is it interesting to people to have a program about people who, work down mines or build the Elizabeth line or who are a tourist guide? I mean, I just think it's a sign of,
someone who just works on the train and someone who's a sort of an ordinary teacher or something. I mean, the idea of people talking about their fantasy lives in music and writing novels is, you're absolutely right, a total throwback. And it's the sort of things that people in the media want to buy, want to do and talk about a lot. And, that's as big an irritation as anything, isn't it, really?
Absolutely, and you just think, well, the commissioning editors and producers, do they actually know anybody in the real world anymore? The idea of, back in the, 60s and 70s when, I'm going to sound really old now, but, the idea of Granada Television and their strapline was Granada from the north. And you had this amazing, flowering of talent from outside London. And now it just seems that it's the same old, same old. And
And it's
that's
got to
why,
be from a novel as well, isn't it? It's got to be from a novel or in a memoir. I mean, that doesn't seem right. I mean, what you're talking about is a period when you had what we, I suppose, called TV playwrights. I'm just trying to think of one now, which is
well, someone like Alan Plater,
Alan
absolutely.
Plater or Dennis Potter, I suppose,
Alan
or
Bennett.
Alan Bennett. But we don't have anybody of this. I suppose James Graham might be one. Who's got something
It's
out
the
there.
whole idea that now we don't have that single play to sort of make a statement with or try out with. Everything's got to be an expensive 6 or possibly 8-part series.
Yeah.
And people, unless, and when you're buying in a memoir or a best-selling novel, this is tried and tested. And what I find really odd is, the amount of people who will watch the TV series, especially if it's a thriller or a crime, they'll watch the TV series of a book they've already read so they know the ending.
No, well, that's just pathetic all round, isn't it? I mean, go and do some crocheting. That's just stupid.
Exactly. This is why I'm quite excited about Sherwood. Is it coming up Monday?
Yes.
The new BBC drama based on crimes around the miners' strike. That is a genuinely new story, isn't it?
Yeah,
Most.
that looks that I saw that trail this morning. That does look very good. I missed the launch, I'm afraid, but viewer and listener, so we'll all be surprised about that. So that's good to know. Well, I did in stars term, I don't know what to give it really. I'm going to give it sort of 3.5 stars. But I'm basically losing a star because it didn't use my favourite Philip Larkin line, was that they fuck you up, your mum and dad. So that's, demerit for that.
Well, if you've watched to the end, you realise mum and dad are actually quite nice. So I'm going to give it 4. I mean, at least I have the sense to realise I know it's not for me, but I think young people will like it, and it's a young people's thing, and it's not by Sally Rooney. So for that, for me, it's worth the extra half point.
Right. Well, moving on. Something that is apparently meant for Love Island, for younger people as well, is Love Island. But of course, I wrote a story last week saying that grandparents are watching it, according to one of the presenters. So
Oh,
believe that as you will. I don't know a lot of grandparents that are watching Love Island. If if there are any grandparents listening, can they please get in contact with the podcast and give me their thoughts on what it's
Yeah.
like to watch people getting around in skimpy swimwear for 8 weeks on a nice warm island?
Do you think they're trying to keep up with their grandchildren and, sort of kind of know what they're doing? I mean, I think Michael Owen has already said he switched off because he can't bear to watch his daughter dicking around on Love Island.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the thing I found about it this time is I thought the casting was poor, and the boys particularly were incredibly dull. I mean, I know men are incredibly dull. I mean, I'm willing to accept that, but this group of nobodies were just the pits, I thought. And the other thing about every series of this, which does irritate me, is the boys seem to have the upper hand. It seems to be built around what the men want. And I hope this is not what reflection of what the producers think society is, and maybe that's what society is like. And if so, it's basically got its feet in the 1950s, this show.
That's absolutely ludicrous, isn't it? Because one thing I did watch this week is Big Boys, the Channel 4 comedy about a young, shy gay lad and a confident
Oh,
young
yeah.
man who sort of meet at college. And I really loved it. And I kind of wish that the guys on Love Island were like the confident young straight man whose name I've entirely forgotten. But, he's a really decent guy. And that's why I want to, I don't want to see the players with a Z. I want to see, decent guys.
No,
Maybe these
these
guys don't make that they maybe don't make enough drama for Love Island.
No, I mean these guys are total blanks. I don't think they could put together two consecutive sentences. I really don't. I mean, I don't think I can put forward a full sentence. Really, let's just try with two phrases with a nice joining word in the middle and see how that works.
Well, there is an Italian one this year, unless he's gone out since I last watched it. Davide,
Yeah,
who had a
Davide. Unfortunately for me, he isn't the completely stereotype Italian, which is about the only one I can probably relate to. So I'm critiquing myself here a bit too strongly, but
he
yeah, I
had
mean,
a he had a date making lemonade with a young lady, didn't he? And you'd think that an Italian would talk about lemons in a bit more conversational way because they like food, but he just was a lemon, frankly.
but then maybe maybe both of us are looking too deeply into Love Island to provide us with sort of conversational TV. I mean, it isn't. It's normally funnier. That's the other thing. I mean, I think you either need very stupid people or very intelligent people making jokes, don't you? Otherwise, if you have neither, you've got nothing.
That's absolutely true, David. It is witless in both senses of the word. I mean, I just think again, we're talking as older people watching television for younger people. Maybe I don't know. Maybe if you're that age, you can relate to all this because maybe we're just being a bit jaded because we've been through all this already. But is it an education on how to behave for young people? I don't think so. The fact that you want to go on it should actually stop you from wanting to go on it. I think,
Yeah, because
like politics.
yeah, I mean, the relationships are totally artificial, aren't they? I mean, so it's the whole thing is a rather delicate artifice done by people who haven't got any delicacy about them at all, really. I'm being too
Yeah,
hard on it. It's great. It's great TV. It's been doing 3 million viewers. I'm missing something.
well, it's IT classic ITV too, isn't it? It's that sort of reality stuff that I mean, and one of the great things is the reason people watch it is it's so big on news websites and the internet. It garners so much coverage.
Yeah,
And it just all becomes circular. It's on telly, so it's popular, so it's in the papers, so it's on telly more. Blah 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 blah.
yeah. It's
Um,
sort of feeding off other parts of the media, but and also, was it interesting that they were recycling a lot of clothes? So a lot of the clothes were off eBay, and I thought, what, you're recycling swimsuits with sort of 1 week in La Rochelle, no sand included or something.
Oh, I'm going to mention the word gusset now, David. Oh,
Yes, I mean
again.
second-hand gusset.
Yeah, there's a word for teenagers. They won't understand that. But is eBay a sponsor? I wonder this year.
I
If it
think
is,
so.
I haven't noticed.
It's another one of these sort of trendy media partnerships, the sort of thing that makes you slightly sick if you hear it at the start of a TV program.
Well, I mean, and also this is what it is. It's, all these kids will suddenly, when they finish, they will all become, all over the showbiz magazines, and then they will become influencers, and then they will become Molly May Haig.
Oh dear, I think we've got to stop talking about it. It's killing me. So 2 stars from me. It's no better than what it's ever been. I mean, the best series is the one with Danny Dyer in it for some reason. I don't know why,
Do
but
you think that's because she was a woman of character, perhaps?
yeah, she had a character. But now to have Michael Owen's daughter on there, they seem to be sort of making it into a celebrity reality show, but not. And then her ex is coming in, so it's more structured reality than it ever was.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And also, it's the fact that we can't have a primetime game show that isn't a celebrity version of this, that, or the other. I mean, if they want to have, didn't this start with Celebrity Love Island, and then it went to Civilian
It
Love
might have,
Island? Now
it
it's
might
going
have
back to
done.
celebrity again. I mean, bring back the real people on the real constructed people on television.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get people. I think they've shied away from people that have got personalities. I really do believe that because it's probably too much hard work and things are a bit more unpredictable. So in terms of editing the show, I bet you it's better to have dull people.
That's very true because they've probably got a really fast turnaround, haven't they, with editing? So good point, David.
And they don't want people saying, "Is Rome part of Italy or something?" Or is is Norfolk in the UK or
East
is
Anglia. Oh,
is Love Island actually? Am I actually in Love Island? It'd be great if someone woke up saying that, wouldn't it?
well, I mean, somebody was saying on Twitter, wouldn't it be great to have middle-aged Love Island? It'll be,
Definitely.
Brian's had 3 glasses of wine and fallen asleep in front of the fire pit, asking where the Gaviscon is. I would totally watch that. Totally watch.
We've got to have some applause for that. Well, it's limp applause, really, but it's applause nonetheless.
Yes, middle-aged applause. Brilliant.
Seniors Love Island. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Just older
Well,
people just sort of falling asleep every 5 minutes.
they have had old people's Take Me Out, which really got on my nerves because the press photos came in and it had 2 older women who were in their 60s and, really gorgeous. It had them both driving in on electric scooters. And it's like, can we just not change our conception of how older people are on telly,
No, that's terrible, isn't it? You're just wishing them to fall off, aren't you? Is that just me?
It's just you, David.
Right, let's move on. The Outlaws, BBC One. I found this one of the more disappointing programs of the week. I have to say, I did only watch 1 or 2 episodes of the first series. This is the Stephen Merchant written drama of people who are getting support in the community after committing crimes. I mean, it's a valuable thing to happen. It's got Christopher Walken as well, who's a great actor, and Merchant's great. But I found this impossible to like, and I couldn't really work out why. I think it's a bit trite, really, and it seems forced to me and unrealistic. But gosh, that's the tenor of the week, really.
Well, I really, really loved the first series of The Outlaws. I watched it all in one go and I found it utterly charming. And I thought everyone was brilliantly cast, particularly the young members of the cast, who I thought were wonderful. But I mean, and it's not so long since that first series, but
No,
I couldn't remember what happened at the end of the last series. I thought it was all quite neatly tucked away. So I was just a little bit confused by what was happening. And again, maybe it's just my, senility creeps in. But the one
it's
thing that was
important,
there,
but I think that's fair enough. It's important that we can find our way into a second series, and they didn't really set it up that well. I mean, it seems to be all been centered on the bag full of money, which is a result of a drug deal, is it?
yes, it is, and it's just all a bit too confusing for my tiny mind. But the young guy stole some drugs money, and then basically it was redistributed amongst all the people on the community service scheme, and they've all
Yeah.
spent it in various ways. And now, of course, the drug dealer wants it back.
Yeah, and
But
I mean, he was the most unlikely drug dealer ever. He was sort of almost middle class. Maybe these are the drug dealers now. Maybe these are the county line drug dealers. But he was white, middle class, well spoken. He sounded public school, even possibly. And then he seemed to believe the notion of the girl who had an Oxford scholarship, which I didn't believe in either. Who was going to make him a lot of money. That was the most ridiculous ending of the first episode. I thought, I just really don't think it's been script edited, this thing.
well, I mean, as we said earlier, it has come round quite quickly. So maybe that it was just a very fast turnaround commission. But I mean, the one thing that was still there was the funny. It is. There was a scene in where there's a girl that Stephen Merchant's character fancies, and he chats her up by saying how sweaty her gusset must have been after cycling into work.
That's
And
twice in the podcast already, Claire. I bet you can't get to 5.
right, it's a challenge. But they are great characters, and it is very funny and it is warm. But as I say, I was just a little bit confused. I mean, I shall go in for the rest of them. I've only watched the first, but as I say, I was so mad on the first series because I liked all the characters, and yeah, it's just tighten up, guys. Tighten
Yeah,
your
exactly.
gussets.
I mean, I did laugh a couple of times. The only big laugh was when he got his head stuck in the chandelier in the nightclub. I mean, I'm always doing that, to be honest.
Yes, that was very funny, and of course you've got the character in it, who is an Instagram influencer. So
Yeah, I
it's got
mean,
lots of
I think
references.
it's so good that an influencer gets dramatized. That's absolutely brilliant.
So I mean, I'm still going to give it 4 because I live in hope.
Okay, well, I'll give it 3, and I don't live in hope when TV is concerned. No, I do a little bit.
But I mean, the thing is, everybody just likes Stephen Merchant. He's just one of
Yeah,
the
he's
good guys.
he's incredibly likable, but I think this needed a bit of editing or needed to go somewhere. But anyway, um, what should we talk about Avoidance? Because I haven't seen that, but this is the Ramesh Ranganathan. Is it a
Yeah.
comedy drama?
Well, I've just seen it as a billed as a comedy, but it's one of those things that's a bittersweet comedy, and I just think enough of the bittersweet comedies. I just want a comedy that makes me laugh, like
Yeah.
Here We Go did, which I still think is the funniest thing I've seen in years, and really didn't get enough coverage. And I bet you it won't come back for a second series, and I shall be most disappointed. But Avoidance is Ramesh playing an avoidant, a man who avoids his emotions. He wakes up one morning and in a kitchen with a kitchen island. So now we've got a kitchen island sitcom to go with the kitchen island dramas. In his beautiful home, and his wife says we're splitting up, and he says, "Well, we'll give it a chance." And she's going, "No, no, we're splitting up." Oh no! So in order to not tell his son they're splitting up, his very cute son, he takes him to the seaside for the day, and then to stay at his gay sister's house with her partner who hates him. And I didn't laugh very much. And I mean, I really like Ramesh. I think he's great. I think he's overexposed.
Yeah, I do as well.
And I just, it's basically a divorce sitcom, but they all live in very nice houses. And again, it's the everything I know about love syndrome. It's like, well, this is this most people's lives? I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think TV is catching up with the way people are living, I hope that's not because commissioning people live a completely different life, which they do to most people. They like to think they don't, but I mean, they probably are largely out of touch. I mean, this sort of seems relatable, but also I think it falls into that trap, which is happening a lot now, where people don't know whether something's a drama or a comedy, but it still seems to get commissioned, probably because Ramesh said yes, I would imagine,
Mm.
and is quite bankable for TV commissioning editors. And it just falls between the two, and you don't know where you are. But I agree with you about Here We Go, and I'm going to do some investigation this week, listener, to find out whether it's going to have a second series. Because if that doesn't get a second series, TV doesn't know what it's doing at all.
Yeah, I mean, I am so mad about that series. I've already watched it twice on the iPlayer because it made me laugh out loud. You know, the performances are wonderful. Catherine Parkinson and Jim Howick they're just all tremendous. And you know, that was, you know, in a way, it was a pretty traditional family sitcom, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but it was so well done, and the idea of having the son shooting it for a media project just gave it that little bit of unexpected edge, didn't it? So
Mm,
you never
mm.
quite knew. And of course, this was, you could look at the way these people were living. He was unemployed. I can't recall what job Catherine
She
had.
just had, we don't know what she did. We just know she had a job she really hated and she was always on
Yeah,
at him to find another one. And then he said he was going to retrain as a policeman, but he couldn't drive.
that's right. So I felt there's such a lot of reality to it. So, you've got the audience already, haven't you? Let's face it. If you can replicate the way people live, which is a common thread through all of this, completely
Yeah.
unrealistic.
I mean, I was thinking about, you know, Carla Lane sitcoms back in the day, you know, when you had, you know, the Carla Lane equivalent of Everything I Know About Love was the Liver Birds.
Yeah,
We had two
absolutely
girls
brilliant.
sharing a flat. And then you had Bread, which was, you know, a real down to earth, scouse working class family all living in one, you know, terraced house with granddad next door. I mean, you know, you don't see much of that anymore on television.
No, you don't. And I think isn't it funny? They go on about having the regions involved, but we don't have anything all right. You have Hollyoaks says
Mm.
in and around Liverpool, but you don't have, it's very unrepresented, isn't it? And this does happen with regions. I mean, you don't see very. I suppose you do see a little bit of Geordie stuff, don't you?
Mm, mm. But as I say, you know, I think I said earlier about Granada, you know, when, you know, you actually did have a northern based production centre. And now, of course, you know, the BBC will argue, well, we've got Salford, and Channel 4 will say, you know, we're based in Leeds now. But ultimately, you still have commissioners who are based in the south and know southern people and southern values. God, don't I sound patronising? But you know, it's not a truly national media scape,
No,
is it?
no, it's
Despite
not.
what
No,
people say.
no. It needs to be more representative. There needs to be a bit of leveling up, Claire.
But a levelling up, maybe a few Australians, David, in the media.
Yes, more Australians. I mean, I think Australians need to own more media. If only there was someone like Rupert Murdoch who'd come along and buy everything again.
Imagine. I mean, are you going to be sad to see the back of Neighbours, David?
I am a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't say I religiously watched it, but I think it had a real charm as daytime TV, didn't it? And it was something very different. And also, I remember when I first came over to university here, and everybody was watching it, and I thought, why are people watching this Australian soap? So I started watching it, and I realised it was a bit of sunshine in people's lives, and that sounds trite, but really, in the end, something to watch while you're having your lunch at home is quite nice with the sunshine. And then, of course, it became a tea time favorite as well. But the characters were always optimistic. It wasn't that harrowing, really, Neighbours. I mean, the worst thing that could go wrong was that the hose came off the hose post or something. I mean, nothing, or the barbecue didn't light. I mean,
Well, I think Daphne died, didn't she? You know, of Des and Daphne fame. Didn't she die or
I mean,
something
there
like
have been there have been deaths, but I mean, you don't get weddings that absolutely turn into a blood wedding or something. I mean, I don't recall stuff like that happening. I just think
that?
it was a lot. It found a way to do nice stories, if you like.
Yeah, and you know, bearing in mind, you know, it was a 5 day a week soap when we, you know, when sort of British soaps are all sort of, you know, train crashes and people screaming at each other. That made it quite nice. You know, they were nice families, weren't they? And of course, you had Bouncer's Dream. What
Yeah,
more
incredible.
in a soap?
I mean, I do think that the way that it's been cast aside, no pun intended, by Channel 5 isn't brilliant, really. I mean, it's not being recommissioned because they, for whatever reason, don't want to show it. But if Channel 5 had the budget, which I believe they do have the budget, I mean, they're owned by an American company now, they could keep it running. So I don't really get it. It's on a digital channel in Australia, I think Channel 10 digital. and they
Mm.
don't have the budget to have it made alone. So it's basically they're only there because of the international acquisitions, which is an odd sort of setup. But I do think Channel 5 could have made more of an effort to find the money for it because, I mean, they'll know that the audience is maybe low. I don't know this. I haven't seen what the audience levels are.
But there
Um,
isn't really an appointment to watch show on Channel 5, is there really? You know, they don't have a serial drama. Um,
no, they don't. They rely on sort of returning things like when big Brits go large, which we've talked about. I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not
Well,
sure
they've
that's the compelling. I'm not sure that's the compelling television that's going to get them and make them a lot of money.
well,
But
they've recommissioned that series Madame Blanc, haven't they, for a second series? So that's pretty long for a Channel 5 drama.
yeah, it is. It is. So, how many stars are you giving Avoidance, or are you
I'm
avoiding stars?
giving it again. I'm giving it 3 stars because I like Ramesh and you know blah blah blah. But for a comedy, it didn't make me laugh. And enough of the bittersweet comedy. I just want some laughs. I want people with their heads stuck down the sink or something like that.
Yeah, definitely more in the kitchen sink comedy. Let's have a quick chat about Dan Walker because it is Channel 5 again. Turning up reading the news it is in London. I mean, he's left Salford where he was doing breakfast and turned up in London to do their news. And it seemed like the strangest thing to have a sort of dyed in the wool BBC guy just basically reading the news, as it turned out. It was on the day that all the stuff was happening with Boris Johnson, and clattering on about having this WhatsApp phone in his pocket where messages are being sent in. I've never seen it. I've never seen a channel make anything out of WhatsApp. It would be a message sent in on WhatsApp. It was like the internet had just been invented on Channel 5.
Oh God! And again, it's just that endless. Hey viewers, give us your say, and it's like this is a news program. I don't want to know what Edith Blott from Reading thinks about Boris Johnson. I absolutely don't. I want to
She
hear what
loves
their
him, actually.
thinks. Oh God, Dan! But the thing is, he's not the first person to come from BBC Breakfast because Sean, look, not Lloyd.
Yes, Sean.
No,
Yes, we don't. We're so sorry, Sean. We can't remember your name, but you're very good.
but she's a doctor of psychology now, so that's why she left because she's absolutely brilliant. And the thing I loved about Sean was, she is a really warm presence. And I mean, you and I used to work in an office where Channel 5 was based, didn't we? And every
Yes.
time I would see her, I would smile and just think, oh, I think she's great.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
suppose that's what breakfast TV personalities do bring to news. They bring a relatability.
Well, they're sort of a bit cozier, aren't they? I mean, at breakfast time, the house is in a bit of chaos, and they seem a nice, warm presence to have around while you're getting the day together in a way. But it was sort of strange comment when he was sort of introduced properly, and he said, "Oh, it's not about the person that's sitting in this chair; it's all about the team." And I'm thinking, well, why the hell have they employed you then?
Yeah, exactly. If anybody can read the news, they might as well have it done by an AI machine or
What
something.
what a
Sean,
parking thing to
Sean
say.
Williams. Sean Williams.
Sean Williams, yes,
Oh,
it's very
yeah,
good.
sorry
Well
about
done. But a
that. But I
completely
mean,
party thing to say. And I mean, and also, I thought he might have done the sort of thing that Tom Bradby did, turn more conversation, which I don't happen to like anyway. But I thought, you've just got to do the news, haven't you? Really, as you're saying, and rather than fiddle around with an iPhone, going, God, there's no WhatsApp messages. What's happening?
yeah, someone sent me a hilarious meme of Paddington and the Queen. Hurrah! Yes, that kind of thing. But I
That would have
mean,
been better.
I mean, maybe it's Channel 5's way of, as we were saying earlier about them not having a sort of, now a serial drama of having some personality for the channel. Because I mean, channel,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
particularly love Channel 5's documentaries, but there is no one person you think of when you think of Channel 5. All right, Jane McDonald. There you go.
Jane McDonald, and maybe the shepherdess who's in Yorkshire Farm, which has done God, and that maybe has done 10 series. And it was in
Well,
the news because
is
her marriage is broken up or something.
Well, but that's great, isn't it, for the channel because it leads you to a spin-off series, where she goes off and becomes a fashion model or something.
Gosh, I love that. What, just sort of only wearing woolen clothes or something?
Exactly. Knickers with a woolen gusset.
Hey,
I think you've got
hang on.
5 in there.
Very good, Claire. Very good. Is that 4 mentions of Gusset?
I think I might have snapped the 5 in. We'll see. But I mean,
Well,
I can understand why Dan has moved from breakfast because, frankly, it must be a really, really hard yakka job, especially if you've got a family to get up so early. So, good for Dan.
yeah, good for
Work-life
him.
balance.
Good for him. I'll give it 4 stars because he brought a bit of news glitter to an otherwise news program that I probably wouldn't watch. But um,
Yeah, exactly. And he brings a bit of Strictly Stardust as well, doesn't he? So, Housewives' favourite and all that.
I just before we go, and we will have to bring this podcast to an end. What a shame. Um, I have watched Man versus Bee, which is the comedy comeback for Rowan Atkinson, which starts on Netflix. Let's get this absolutely right. On June the 24th, I think it goes up. And it is very funny. I mean, of course, Atkinson is somebody you look at on the screen and you start laughing anyway. He's got a bit of the Eric Morecambe about him, hasn't he, Claire?
Oh, definitely. I mean, how Mr. Beanish is this new one?
It's very Mr. Beanish. It's about Trevor, a house sitter who turns up at this smart house and can't work anything and is sort of left in control of a dog that is running rampant and sort of £1 million artworks. I mean, it's another really relatable comedy, actually.
Yes, I think in Andrew Billen's interview with him in This Week in the Times, I think Billen said, this house looks surprisingly like your house, Rowan. And Rowan said nothing about that.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
I think Rowan Atkinson's house is worth 110 million, and it's in Oxfordshire. In case anyone wants to go and visit it, but
Oh, that's nice. I bet it's got a kitchen island or 17.
absolutely, this has got sort of huge, hugely high ceilings and remote control doors, windows, everything really. But it is quite Mr. Beanish, but I don't think that matters in a way because the character's sort of bumbling along, and I mean, it's a bit like it's probably more Johnny English than Mr. Bean, I think. But the other thing about it is the episodes are very short. I mean, the first episode was actually probably 18 minutes, and then I think subsequent ones are like 11 minutes. So it could, I mean, if they worked out his fee per minute, which they probably did, I think Atkinson will be probably buying another house worth 110 million soon.
That's extraordinary. I mean, because it's very physical, I guess, you've got the international market sewn up.
Yeah, and he said in an interview I read with him in Radio Times about Mr. Bean with that there has been rumors that they would do another Mr. Bean film, but he says he's completely exhausted by it. So this is why I mean, at this rate, the Mr. Bean movie is going to be 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, but did you laugh, David? Is it
I did
funny?
laugh. I did laugh quite a bit. I would say in that sort of whatever it was, 18 minutes, I probably a good half a dozen times. I mean, that probably doesn't, that's a hit rate of what, once every 3 minutes, or probably more than that, actually.
Well, that's pretty good. Pretty good, David.
It's pretty good. So I think Netflix got a bit of a hit there, but um, they would. I mean, I'd find it difficult for him not to do something and be funny in it, really, wouldn't it?
I think so. Well, mind you, I was thinking about the thin blue line. Did I actually laugh at that? I can't remember. But it's as I say, it's interesting in interviews he's given how he says he's not a funny.
No, exactly, exactly. Um, but that's something for next week, anyway.
Oh, it's something to look forward to.
Indeed. Are you looking forward to anything next week, Claire? You'll be probably watching more Love Island, won't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because there's nothing I like better than thick people in their 20s going, "Oh, she's fit. Oh, I really like her," and then going on a date where they make lemonade. Maybe making lemonade is a euphemism for something. I really don't know, but I don't think there's anything. Oh yes, apart from the Sherwood on Monday with
Yeah, absolutely.
lovely middle-aged ladies pin up David Morrissey.
Yeah, well, there we are. Gosh, I'm sort of mildly excited as well. That's completely wrong.
I know, but I mean, the thing is, you've got a great cast. You've got Robert Glenister, Leslie Manville, David Morrissey, all solid, fine, fabulous actors.
I mean, that's
So
got the potential to be drama of the year, but if it's not drama of the year, you'll hear it here, though.
here, 17th.
Thank you, Claire. Until next week, then.
Yes, until next week with more gussets.
Powered by Riverside.